We have an extra feature this week ahead of the Dominic Smith Electrical Senior Football Final between Castletown and the Shelmaliers. We've managed to round up 3 guys that were involved in management teams of their respective clubs to, I suppose what we're going to do is we're going to go down through the players and maybe pick our team from the two sets of players that are going to line out at the weekend. We're here in the Crown. It's a beautiful venue here, and plenty of work going on. As a Wexford townie, Billy, you must be very pleased with the sort of work that's going on around this area.
Yes, Peter, it's fantastic what they're doing here at the Neville's. They're going to eventually have the street fully covered, roofed. You know, it'll be just like a piece of Europe in Wexford. You know, it's a fantastic development. The Crown Bar itself here, as you can see, is a beautiful pub. The hotel next door that they've developed with apartments and rooms, and it's just they're investing money in their home county, and that's fantastic to see. And it's bringing great employment and great amount of visitors to the town, and long may it continue. Congratulations to the Nevilles for that. I think it's fantastic what they do.
So we're in a very colourful lounge area, and we're going to make a start. Alan Cowman and Purt Doyle are also alongside. And first of all, the first position on any team is the goalkeeper. And Alan, your thoughts on the goalkeepers? Dara Brooks and Craig McCabe, both very competent between the posts.
Yeah, no, 2 very, very good goalkeepers, both with plenty of experience. We would have come up against both players and tried to look on how we were going to counteract them because of their ability to get the ball out so quickly, the short option, the long one. Very similar attributes in terms of one-on-one shot stopping ability. 2 really, really good players. Not an easy position to pick. And if I was probably pushed on one, it would be Craig McCabe. Just his ability to left, right, and that quick ball out. I find it extremely impressive with his accuracy.
And Billy?
I agree with Alan on that one, because I remember a stat from last year's championship, and up to the semi-final, up to the final, Craig McCabe hadn't lost a kick out for the whole championship. It was not many clubs outside their own club knew that, but it's a fantastic stat to have. Now, it hasn't been like that this year, but it's still his distribution. Distribution is such an important part of the goalkeeper's lot now, and I just about both of them are very adequate, very excellent goalkeepers. But I would go for Craig McCabe on this one.
Bert?
Both of them were good as well, and I suppose Craig McCabe's footwork are good. Maybe the bit of soccer that he did down through the years has given him that. Dara Brooks is excellent, and he gets great distance in the kick out. He's well able to kick it past the halfway line. And but a hard one to call between both of them. But Craig nearly got caught there with Kyle and Ahern this year, giving the ball over the head there. It could have been costly. It could have been a goal in or whatever. But looking at the zoom, I suppose from kick-outs for the Shells excel, I suppose you'd have to give it to Craig McCabe as well. Yeah.
Okay, so Craig McCabe is the selection committee's pick for the goal. The 2 right cornerbacks then, obviously I should have said at the start, like these are the teams that we had in the semi-finals, and they're the likely teams. Now there could be a couple of changes, no doubt, with injuries or tactical changes or anything, so we might be proven wrong at the weekend as to the way the teams will line out. But the next position is the right cornerback position, and Billy, your thoughts first this time. Ross Cody and Andre O'Brien.
Again, 2 excellent tight marking defenders. Both have been excellent this year. I saw both of them against us in the group stages. Dre, I know him very well. He's a very tight marker. He's one of the veterans of the Shelmaliers team. Ross, a young guy, very fit, very fast. Both of them are similar type of players. And just for the slagging purposes only, I'd go for Ross on this one, rather than Andre. So
a very tight one. Port, will you get your thoughts then?
Yeah, both of them, as what Billy said, not to be just repeating everything again, they're very good defenders, and Ross is an excellent defender too, and good tackler, and Andre the same. Andre, I suppose, has been fighting for that position over Dan Campbell, and he seems to be cementing that position down. But going back to the kickouts again, which is one of the strengths that the Shells have, they seem to be doing that well, so I'd go the opposite. I'd go for Andre O'Brien on that one.
So Alan, you're going to have to split the difference here between Ross Cody and Andre O'Brien for the cornerback position.
2, as Laz said, 2 excellent players. Both have vital roles within the defensive structure of their teams. Quite often with 2 left inside or 1 left inside with the attacking opposition. Andre O'Brien finds himself in that free role, and he covers it quite well, reads the game very well. Ross Cody attacks a lot from that area. He's quite attack minded, offers a lot to his team going forward. Having played with Andre O'Brien all the way up along, I've seen firsthand his actual reading of the game, his hand passing, his kicking, and I think he's a very rounded player. So on the performances in this championship, I go with Andre O'Brien.
Okay, so we move on then to the full back position, and it's going to be Danny Gardner and James Cash are the most likely to take up those positions. And Purt, your thoughts first.
Again, both of them are very good defensively, and James Cash, the captain there of the Shells as well, which is a good thing in his favour there. But I suppose, given the way both of them as well, and I suppose I come back to the way they're structurally set up as well, from the kick-out position, I'm going to give that to James Cash.
Okay, Billy?
Yeah. Both players very familiar with, all right, and they're actually important cogs in their positions and for what they bring to each of their teams. And I would slightly shade it for Danny Gardner in this one. I've seen more of Danny play over the years. I've always rated him highly, and I think he's playing as well this year as the other. It's just about shaded.
And again, it's another 1-1. We won't leave it till the third the next time round, but you're third this time again, Alan, so you're going to have to break the deadlock.
No, some very, very good points from the lads. Haven't seen them both play a few different times. The one thing that sort of would edge it for me for Danny Gardner would be at times he can really time that attack and run, and if he can time that, I think coming onto a late ball he really can offer something as an attacking threat for Castletown, which it could prove vital at a certain stage of the game. So for me, I'm going to just barely give it to Danny Gardner.
So the selectors are picking Danny Gardner for the full back position, and we move on then to the final of the full back line, and it's Joe Ahern and Ross Banville, and we'll go to you first this time, Alan, then, and your thoughts.
Again, two very good players, deserving their spots there on that. I would have seen a lot more of Ross probably this year. When we played the Shells, he would have picked up Rowan White, done that man marking job very well on him. When I went to see them play the Starlights, he would have picked up the Gooch, did an excellent job again on him, and he's really started making that role his in terms of the man marking job, and it'll be interesting to see who he's going to pick up in the game at the weekend. Joe, excellent, gives a really good short option, tenacious, tackles well, and a very tight marker. But based on just some of the profiles that Ross has marked, I'm going with Ross.
Okay, and Billy?
Have to agree with Alan on this one. Both, again, great attributes, both players. You mean any player on any of these teams, they're excellent players, so it's very hard to separate them. But Ross's performance this year, as Alan said, in his man marking roles, he has marked the best forwards, especially the last 3 games, and he's been excellent. He had problems with injuries last year, and I just think this year he's really excelling, and he's coming into his own, especially now.
So you've already been outvoted in Purt regardless of which way you're going, but which way are you going?
Well, it's hard to go against the two boys and not repeating everything. Look, we paid the price for that as well. Ross Banville came and he did mark the Gooch last time. We met the Shells there and he did an excellent job on him. He stopped, he did the job he was asked to do and stopped him, so you'd have to pick Ross Banville out of that. Okay,
so Ross Banville is the owner of the number 4 jersey on this particular team. We go to the half-back line then, and we have, in the right wing-back position, we have Frank Roach and Glynn Malone. And Purt, your thoughts on Frank Roach and Glynn Malone?
Both as well. Look at two good defenders there, wing-back position. So look at Frank was good as well in his own position there and have cemented it down as well. And Glynn Malone, he's been excellent too. Look at county footballer as well, and the role he does for the Shells there without him to be in serious bother. He's a real important player from his free taking abilities and have scored a lot this year, and he's running too with all the runs that he makes, all those hard runs. So look at, I just have to give it to Glynn Malone.
Alan?
Both extremely important for their teams. Glenn has been massive for the Shells, and actually I see his use mainly on opposition kickouts. He pushes up into that space, blocks it out, and really gives the keeper something to think about whether he's going to put it into that area, and it has helped the Shells in getting many turnovers, and because of that then they really punish you. Frank Roach drops in really well into the defensive structure that Castletown set up, but his speed and pace when he's running really offers something to Castletown, and his ability to go off the shoulder there to the lads in the midfield and half forward line. Glenn's kicking, his important scores will be the reason that he'd edge that position for me.
And Billy?
Yeah, both players, they have all the attributes needed by the modern day halfback. Very hard. It's a pity actually that they're paired against each other because they're so important to their teams. But on the basis of Glenn is so imposing physically as a defender, as a man pushing forward, and then the free taking, the ability. I know last year at times he dragged the team over the line in certain tight games, and and this year he's continued that way. And he's a consistent performer, and I'd go for Glenn on that one.
And two men in the centre back positions have, I suppose, filled the roles that were previously taken by older statesmen in their panels. Colin Morris is the former centre back for Castletown, I suppose, and Brian Malone for the Shelmaliers, who's been moved into the forward. So we have the centre back competition between Colin Kennedy and Graham Staples. And Billy, we'll get your thoughts first this time.
Again, tough one to two reasonably new players to both teams. Again, the defensive structure is probably more obvious to us from the Castletown point of view because they were more defensive, again when we played them, and Colin was so important in that role. But Graham offers a lot going forward. I think he is the energy he has, and I admire the full half-back line of the Shelmaliers really, and I just have to go with Graham on this one.
Alan?
Agree with a lot of what Billy said. Both excellent players, and they're at the key of what both teams do well. Their ability to lead and command the lads around them is excellent. They really organise both sets of defences, communicate from the goalkeeper what he's wanting, communicating from the forwards, and they're excellent in that way. Both of them actually got up for an assist for goals in the semi-final. So they're not the traditional just holding, they have that attacking threat. I'd probably nudge, it's a very, very tough one. I'd probably go with, just on the game against us, Colin Kennedy was particularly very good, so I'm going to go Colin for that day, but only just.
Okay, so we have 1-1 now, Purt, and you're the deciding factor in this.
1-1. I like both of them, and I saw both of them last week in Wexford Park Sunday there. Bad day, but as the lads were saying as well, both of them like to get forward and they're good in their defensive roles as well. Graham is probably one player for the Shells that probably doesn't get enough credit for the amount of work that he does. I personally don't, and I never saw him looking as fit there. I was saying to you earlier on, and Colin Kennedy is new to me, but I thought he played really well on Sunday as well, and both of them actually got up to score a point apiece in that game, in the two games there last week. But on this one now, I'll have to give the Colin Kennedy as well. I have to pick a Castletown man. So yeah, Colin Kennedy for me.
So the owner of the number 6 jersey on our team is Colin Kennedy. And we move on then to the last of the back positions, and it's a competition between Joe Gardner and Simon Donohoo. And Alan, your thoughts?
Joe, really solid footballer, has really good understanding of the game. His ability to retain possession is excellent. When he gets it, he doesn't give it away. He tucks in nicely into that defensive structure, but he's physically very strong in the tackle. He can put in a big hit if it's needed and get that turnover. Simon has been excellent for many years, fantastic footballer, and has really impressed me, his energy, attacking, but even if they're turned over, his pace and speed that he drops back into their defensive structure has been excellent. Even how he follows out his runs through the full forward line and creates that space and leaves space, it's absolutely brilliant. Tight again, but I'm going to go with Simon Donohoo.
Purt?
Yeah, one thing I will say, probably with the two boys, I know both of them. I know Joe from minor county there with a few years ago. Was involved, he was not, and he was excellent. He was very good. Hard one to call probably between the two of them. But as Alan was saying about Simon as well, looking very good as well. But I think he lacked that bit of energy that I have seen in previous years, whether it's the county or what it's been done. I don't think he's making those massive big runs that he had been making for the club, and he's not picking up as many scores as he normally would in years gone. So, but going between the two of them, look at, I would edge Simon Donohoo on this one as well, you know. Yeah.
And Billy?
Both excellent players again, as the lad said, and Alan made some great points about it. I just think Simon Donohoo is a big game player. I think, you know, Dooley, he's always played well in finals, and I just think he has so much energy. He'll be involved in the last line of defence. He'll be in the last line of attack, and he'll edge it slightly in this one, I think.
And I think, so Simon Donohoo is the winner of the number 7 position, but I think, Billy, you made a good point there, that regardless of who you pick on any team, when managements are deciding on picking teams, I think what you mentioned there, a big game player is a very important factor to take into account, because you'd see people that would be absolutely outstanding in the training field or brilliant in league matches, but it's being able to produce on the big day. Yeah,
it's an attribute that, you know, every player doesn't have it. You know, we've all played bad in finals. We've seen players play bad in finals. It's not just the day of the final. You've two. In this case, it's a week, but you know, it's a week of tension, a week of worry of, am I right? Am I eating right? Am I going to perform right? And it gets to some players, and it does affect their performance. But I just think he's one of the players that won't affect. It's experience, I suppose, you know, at the end of the day.
So to quickly recap then on what we have so far, we've Craig McCabe in the goal, Andre O'Brien, Danny Gardner and Ross Banville, Glenn Malone, Colin Kennedy and Simon Donohue. So we have the Shells on the wings and Castletown up the middle so far. And now we move on to the first of the two midfield duos, which are Liam Coleman and Sean Keane Carroll. Purt.
Both of them excellent too. I know Liam from under 21 there, and Sean King Carroll as well, excellent, and he did a lot of damage to us there a few weeks ago when we were up against him. So, but Liam has been having an injury there this year, so he's coming back. But I thought he played very well there last Sunday. So really hard one to call now between both of them. Maybe if I was given it one, I'd probably edge it with Sean King Carroll, maybe for his scoring ability, what he's after scoring so far this year. So I'd probably give it to slightly go in favour of Sean King Carroll in this one.
Billy?
Yeah, the worry I would have about, I think Liam Coleman is a fantastic midfielder. He's done it for club and county, and I wonder how fit he is. You know, he's missed a lot of games. I know he played well last Sunday. And he's up against, if they line out this way, he's up against Sean Keane Carroll. He's been a revelation for the Shelmaliers this year. I think he's an excellent player. He's probably underrated by a lot of us, a lot of people, a lot of observers. And I think he's just stepped his game up a couple of notches this year, and I go for him in this situation.
Alan?
I probably would have actually went with Liam Coleman. On the games I've seen Sean King Carroll, he's been excellent. His use of the ball has been good. I find he holds very much that middle, which allows Owen Nolan and the wing backs to go, which then gives them that defensive structure again, which seems to be so important to the Shells and everything they're doing. Liam Coleman played 25 minutes against Glynn in very wet conditions up in Mernagh, and in that 25 minutes he was excellent. He created a goal chance for them. He commanded kickouts. He was very, very impressive. It was good in the semi-final, and if Liam Coleman can come how he did in that 25 minutes, I think he'll be a really, really strong asset to Castletown at the weekend.
So certainly a tight one, but Sean Keane Carroll gets the nod here from our selection committee. And the other midfield berth then between Rory Heffernan and Owen Nolan. Of course, we do know that the teams mightn't line out this way. Aidan Cash is another good option that the Shelmaliers might have, and Owen Nolan could be pushed further forward or something like that. But for the purposes of this, we're going for Rory Heffernan against Owen Nolan, and we'll get Billy, your thoughts first.
Yeah, another interesting clash if it does line out that way, because I know Owen ended up in the full forward line last day. I think again Rory Heffernan and Liam Coleman are a great midfield pairing in that. I mean, any club would be delighted to have them. Owen can play anywhere, and he could end up playing anywhere on Sunday the way John Hegarty picks the team. And I think I shade it slightly towards Rory Heffernan on this one, because I think he's more of a natural midfielder than Owen. That's the only reason why. Ability wise, both of them are excellent, but I just think Rory is more of a natural midfielder.
Alan?
Both very, very good. I agree with Billy's point. Rory's probably a natural midfielder, the way he reads the game, covers the ground, and gives an option to his defenders coming out. Owen more so an attacking threat. the pace that he runs at, and he's so direct. It's frightening for defences. It creates a lot of opportunities. And I've just been impressed with his fitness overall this year. The pace that he moves is at a different level to most other players in the county. So for me, I'd probably go with Owen.
Okay, and Purt, you have to break the deadlock again.
Well, from what the lad said, from kickouts from both sets of keepers, I suppose Rory Heffernan will try and win it clean in the air for every kick-out that he contests, and the Shells seem to be content on breaking the ball down and looking forward to win the dirty ball rather than catch it clean in the air. But Rory Heffernan is an excellent player too. I like both players and the work to do. Owen Nolan's work rate when he has the ball, when he hasn't got it, is excellent as well. But the runs he makes and linking up with other players for the Shells when they're in attack is really important to the Shells setup. And I'm going to slightly go edged for Owen Nolan with threat. He possesses his regards from a scoring point of view. I think he creates a lot more scoring opportunities, chances than Rory. So in that respect, I'm going to go for Owen Nolan. Okay,
so in all Shelmaliers midfield, Owen Nolan gets the nod this time. And we move into the forwards, and the first forward battle is between Jack Higgins and Ernie Murphy. So your thoughts, first of all, Purt again.
Both players, I haven't seen much of Jack now. I saw him last Sunday now and he was quiet. He didn't get any, he didn't score on last Sunday, but watched Ernie Murphy as well, and have been doing. I have seen a lot more of him down through the years coming up against the Shelmaliers. You know, both of them were excellent. Jack is a young chap after coming into the Castletown setup, very talented as well. Ernie's work rate is very good. We've been very impressive. He was good against us. Actually, last year, remember from last year in the Gushran game, there, I think he could have got 1-2 for the Shells in that game. So he's an excellent player as well. Actually, Johnny Donohoo had a shot on goal there in last week's game. And no one else would make the run he made inside, and it dropped short, and he got him behind the player and he got a goal for it. And his work rate is really excellent. So in this one, I definitely favour Ernie Murphy.
Billy?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Purt on this one. I think both, as all the players on the teams, are excellent players. Jackie, young lad, has done well this year, cemented his place on the team, Castletown, and offers a lot to them going forward. But Ernie Murphy, to me, is kind of one of the unsung heroes of the Shelmaliers team over the last few years. And as Purt said, 1-2 in the final last year. I just think he's a big game player as well, but it's just his work rate alone, I think, he edges it for me on this one.
Alan?
I give him the hat-trick on it. Ernie Murphy will get my nod there. Excellent player. His understanding of football is fantastic. His ability to give them width, to create space, to even when he gets back, to know when the team is under counter-attack, to either delay them or get in there. Jack Higgins plays a vital role for Castletown on their own kick-out, particularly when they played the Sarsfields, and they try to utilise that space massively. And if Jack can win that ball and start carrying it directly at the Shells defence, it can cause serious problems. But I go with Ernie for everything that the lads had said.
So Ernie Murphy gets the first of the half forward spots, and Alan, while you were talking there, we'll go back to you for the start of the centre forward position. Robbie Brooks and Owen Doyle.
Two excellent players, slightly different in how they play. Owen likes to try to link up the play a little bit more, get his hands on the ball, and conduct the Shelmaliers forward line in terms of his kick passing ability. And if it's recycled out, he's well able to kick a score. Robbie works extremely hard as centre forward, gets back, helps out, but his ability to get up and get goals at vital times for them is a massive attribute. So for me, I go with Robbie Brooks.
Really?
Yeah, in this case, Owen is a real playmaker and score maker, whereas Robbie is a score taker as well as a score maker. You know, I just think Robbie, he offers so much driving forward. I know against us he causes all sorts of problems. He could have, he was at the start and the end of three goals. He could have scored a lot more. I think he's in great form. It'll be one of the men that Shelmaliers will be targeting on Sunday to stop him from being too influential. But I just give him the nod in this
So it's 2-0 for Robbie Brooks so far. So there's no deadlock to break, Purt, but what are your thoughts?
I like both players, and I know Owen Doyle, we've come up against him a good few times. One thing he really does, one of his strengths is kicking from distance, and he seems to be, with the game plan that the Shells are operating with at the moment, he's actually stopped doing that. And maybe if Castletown set up defensively against them on Sunday, he might have to start doing that again. But an excellent player, but Robbie Brooks probably top scorer in the championship this year, and there's going to maybe there's a good bit of pressure on him now if Ben is going to be out. So, but an excellent player and an excellent player to score goals and points. But yeah, you'd have to give it to Robbie Brooks. So
Robbie Brooks is the centre forward on this team, and then to fill out the half forward line we have Connor Carty, who's been moved up there in the last few rounds, normally used to playing in the backs, and Jody Donohoo, another man who's played plenty in the backs of course as well. And this time we'll go to Billy first.
Another one, tough one to call, Peter. Both, so mobile. They're players. They're involved in everything. They're up and down the field. Superb levels of fitness. Both excellent footballers, and I just give it to Jody, and I share it, Jody, on this one.
Purt?
Yeah, both players I like, and as Billy was saying, their work rate is huge for their teams. Jody Donohoo as well, look at going back to last year's final, he got 1-1. So he's a player that will get goals. He scored a goal again there last week. And for that, the ability of him to get scores for his team, I'll have to give him the edge over Conor on this one.
And Alan?
A lot of very good points by the lads. Jody, excellent, and he's got some very high quality scores in games. He's got one out near the sideline against us in Belfield. It was a very impressive score. I probably would have edged towards Connor Carty. I just find he's the real hub of what a lot of Castletown do. He really organises them, and as captain he's leading by example with his work rate, his tenaciousness in the tackle, his ability to link the ball, and he's going to be one that the Shells will need to watch to try and curtail his influence on the game, because if he starts linking and running with that ball, he can cause problems.
So it's 2-1, majority rules to Jody Donohoo, but again two fine players, and hopefully they'll both have good games at the weekend. We move into the full forward line then. A little bit of a contrast here because we have Donica Holmes and Conor Ahern, and I think it's fair to say, Alan, that Conor Ahern wouldn't play as a traditional corner forward by any means. He's most of the time out around the field as a sort of a loose player, and Donica is more of a forward.
Yeah, he sort of leaves that area to create space for Onagar and Brian Malone. But a lot of these Shells players are so interchangeable in their positions. Now and again you might find Ernie Murphy in the corner and Jody Donohoo, which creates space for their outfield players to run the ball through the lines. But yeah, no, Conor comes out around that middle area, links up the ball, but his time of the run, and he seems to be really flying at the moment. Donica's moved in there. He was probably more in the half forward line on the opposite side to Jack Higgins. A real threat running with the ball, and he sort of has an eye for goal that he tries to get through, get the goal. But just for his overall influence on the game, I would go with Conor Ahern, just as he's a real link man for the Shells and one of their, again, unsung heroes.
Billy?
Yeah, I agree with Alan on this one. Two different roles and two different corner forwards, and it's supposed who will execute the role best of all. And I just think that if Donica gets half a chance, he will bury it. He's a great score taker, always has been. But it's the contribution of Conor all over the field. It won't be as a corner forward. It's the space he creates, but also the balls he'll win outfield. I think I'd give it to him on this one.
Purt?
Yeah, I have to agree with what the two lads said. Donica's excellent as well, and will get scores for you. And Conor Ahern as well, I think he's been unbelievable. I thought he was excellent there last week against the Ants, and I think he plays a similar role to Glenn Malone with his work rate and his running off the ball and darting runs that he make. He won't, he's weaving in left to right to get by. So the player, but for his scoring threat alone, I'd have to go with Conor Ahern on that one.
So Conor Ahern is the taker of the number 13 jersey, and now there's a bit of a disclaimer before the number 14 jersey. I understand that as we're doing this preview currently, there's an appeal going on for Ben Brosnan's red card, so we don't know exactly at the moment whether he'll be able to play or not. But we're going to go on the basis that he will be able to play, just because he's played all the games up until now. And it also makes the lads' decision a bit more tricky, because it's Ben Brosnan against Owen O'Gara. And Billy, you're going to give us your thoughts first.
Thanks, Peter. Suicide pass, let's go. Can we play one for 30 minutes and the other for the other 30 minutes? Because we've two legends of the game in full forward position. Ben Brosnan topped the scoring charts for years. He's been a focal point of Castletown's play. Fantastic player, and we have a 7-time All-Ireland winner, Owen O'Gara, who still has to, I think, hasn't really shown what he's capable of. Hasn't had to show, and I think I'd fear for Castletown in some sense that if he's given the opportunities on Sunday, that this could be his statement of, I'm in Wexford, lads, have a look at this. I just think it's hard to overlook somebody of the calibre of Owen O'Gara. As much as I admire Ben Brosnan and always have, I think he's a fantastic player. I just have to shade towards Owen O'Gara in this one.
Purt?
Both fantastic players, and I like both of them. And Ben has been excellent down through the years for his club and for Wexford. Good. Owen O'Gara, everyone knows Billy has spoke about him with Dublin and all, and look what All-Irelands he have. He created 2 goal chances there last Sunday. Now, keeper said both of them, but there were 2 chances he had. The only thing about Ben, he kind of drifts out around the midfield, away from the scoring area. But I think from a goal scoring point of view and from scoring in general, I think you'd have to shade Owen O'Gara on that one.
You didn't want to give it to Ben to give Alan a difficult call to make. So you have a bit of a freebie here, Alan.
Yeah, but look, Ben has, at times in this season, has lit up the championship with some of the fantastic points he kicked, getting the ball on the turn, kicking without looking at times, and it going straight over the black spot. It'd be the envy of every other forward in the county that way. And he'd be a big loss for Castletown if he's not playing. If he is playing, it really offers something to them as an out ball. His ability to retain the possession when it goes into him is excellent, and he brings other players into the game at times as well. Owen O'Gara, he was the difference the last time they met. The 1-2 he scored was the difference really when it came down to it. When Castletown played against Sarsfields and Owen Roach went in at full forward, his height really caused problems for them. And Owen O'Gara's height in there might do the same, which will create goal chances for the Shells. So I think it's going to be a massive way in how they stop the ball going into him, or are they going to try and block the space and break the ball. But that'll have a big bearing on the county final result.
And finally then, the number 15 position, Brendan Halpin and Brian Malone. So Purt, we'll get your thoughts first.
Both, I suppose, Brendan Halpin, your natural forward. Brian Malone has position for years has been more of a centre back, maybe you're in the half back line, and he's played that really well. To seem to have him up there now, maybe the legs are not what they were, and he's getting close to goal, but he has been doing damage in matches with what goals he's after scoring. Typical goal he scored there last Sunday when the ball was kicked in and came out off the keeper, and he was just there to flick it in. And he will score goals. He's excellent. A tough one to call. Brendan Halpin kicked 3 points there last Sunday as well. So, but from a forward point of view, I think I'll edge Brendan Halpin on that one.
Okay, Alan.
Again, both excellent players, slightly different in their roles. Brendan plays a slightly bit out further, tries to get on the ball, links lads in and gets onto the play or off the shoulder to kick good scores. Brendan has really good understanding of football. His hands are excellent, hand pass and kicking. And then Brian has probably, I think he's moving into the full forward line has been the biggest asset to how the Shells are playing. The depth that he's given them, his runs rarely come outside of 14, if not to the 21, and it forces the team to sit back further. Because of that, then the Shells have that depth space for runners to come through. But when the ball goes in, it really sticks, and the pace that he gives an option when he runs, it's a hard run every time. And just for his leadership attributes, I'm going to go with Brian, and to make Billy's job a little bit harder.
got a tough one at last. Again, Brendan Halpin, brilliant forward, has been for years for Castletown. A natural forward, I would call. Brian, an unnatural forward in the best possible way. I think as a defender, he was such a good reader of the game. He had the ability to be in the right place at the right time and to give the right pass at the right time. And unusually and very difficult to do, he's transferred those skills as a forward. It's not an easy task for someone who's played so long in the backs to come up and be a focal point and perform so well. As Alan said, I think he's been such an important part of the way Shells play. I think he's such a big asset in the forward line, and I'd have to go Brian Malone on this one.
So Brian Malone completes the 15 of the panel here, and the final thing, of course, as part of any team, well, there are two other things. We have the management, but the subs, and we all know how much of a panel game it is. I have the subs written on the back of the sheets, lads, if you want to be reminded of them. The regular subs that are being used by Castletown this year: Jody O'Shaughnessy, Killian Pearce, James Holmes, Gavin McNulty. They have a couple of other options on the line there, plenty of experience and plenty of youth. On the Shells, they've operated really with a bigger panel: Aidan Cash, Tony Smith, Paul Hearn, Mark Power, Dan Campbell, Cian Doyle, Robbie Delaney, and of course Pádraig O'Leary as well. So they probably have a few more options when it comes to the bench, but it's not all about the numbers you have on the bench, it's about who you have on the bench. And if you had to pick a bench, which one would you be picking?
Jody O'Shaughnessy work rate down through the years has been brilliant. Killian Pearce has probably been away for a while during the summer there, but he's back now. He come on there Sunday and he looked very lively. A great footballer. James Holmes has been excellent for Castletown as well, and Gavin McNulty. We're looking at the Shells bench. A panel in general is really strong, and massive amount to pick from, but Aidan Cash there could come on and do a job midfield. Tony Smith has been coming in and out of it.
Could even start, really? With
he could start and getting a few points. And I personally think the team started last week will probably start again for the Shells. But Paul Hearn's been coming on and getting a goal or two as well and getting a couple of scores. So, and Mark Power, Cian Doyle come on, he scored a goal this year. Pádraig O'Leary was starting the last couple of years. So the Shells bench looks really stronger. So they've a lot more to offer if they come in, I think.
Have you anything to add on that, Billy?
Yeah, I think when you look at Pádraig O'Leary, I think he scored, was against you last year, he scored 6 points from play, and he's not on the team this year. You know, it shows the strength and depth. I know you've 8 players mentioned there for Shelmaliers, and I think they used even more than that throughout the year. Did they, or was that the...
Tiernan Neville was another. He got 3 goals against you.
I didn't want you to mention his name. No, he shouldn't be back either. No, but he scored 3 goals against us, and he's not even on the team.
I have Robbie Delaney listed, but I think as far as I know, he's still eligible to play Junior A, and I think he could be playing in the final beforehand as well. So.
No, I think looking at the players available, I just think the Shelmaliers have a stronger bench. It's the bench that has made a difference throughout the year. It made a difference against us. It made a difference last week. It's just made a difference every time they've played. And I think they have a stronger bench to draw on Sunday.
Yeah, similar to what the lads are saying, both like running game, both teams like to run the ball, so having fresh legs to come on to sort of finishers rather than substitutes will be massive for them. James Holmes got a good goal against Bunclody, shows that if he gets his opportunity, he could go and get another goal again. Jody O'Shaughnessy has played a vital role in any game that he has played. And when they played in the previous round, I think it was on the 60th minute, Tony Smith came on and there was a point in the game and he kicked one to put it to 2. And they're going to be looking to that maybe on the weekend where someone has that composure and that confidence that they can kick a score. Both very, very strong benches. Again, just on their legs and the speed that they can come on and impact the game. I'm going to go with the Shell subs.
So, one thing we've certainly learned from this is that it could be used as or played out for the Castletown players before the start of the game as a bit of motivation, because I suppose overwhelmingly the lads have decided on Shelmaliers players, but I think we ended up with, was it 12-3 or something like that. I don't think the game is going to be quite as one-sided as that. It's all about systems, really. I know we're picking teams here and it's a difficult thing to do. It's more so an opportunity to analyse the players that are involved. But Billy, your thoughts on the game as a whole, really?
Yeah. It was a difficult thing to do because and a lot of the was a 2-1 split decision, and it's really my thoughts are from the start of the year. I thought Shelmaliers were the team to beat, and from seeing them perform so consistently that they're unbeaten, they're the only unbeaten team in the championship. I just couldn't see them losing all year. But after looking at this list of players in front of us, that that when you go individual against individual, it's going to be a lot closer than I thought. And I think Castletown, it's all down to the organisation. They'll be very defensive. They'll have to be very defensive, but they have the players that can break and take scores on the break. But it's all about stopping Shelmaliers from scoring, and that's the way they'll set up. But I think that Shelmaliers have the strength to break down this defensive system. They have the ability to take long range scores, and they have the big athletic players that'll break through a tackle and create overlaps for other people. So I just still think that Shelmaliers will win it, but I think it will be closer than I thought it was going to be before we sat down and did this exercise.
So how close do you think it'll be then?
I think 4 to 5 points to Shelmaliers.
Alan? Two teams that have probably timed their run to the final. I think looking at them in the group stage, both teams are experimenting a little bit. I think Robbie Brooks alluded to it, that after the hurling day, it took them a while to get into the football and get their set up, and I think it's improved week on week. The Shells have utilised a lot of different players and just seem to be becoming a lot stronger, especially since it's gone knockout. When they played the Starlights, when they played the Ahns, they just really seem to be hitting that rich vein of form. I think a lot of it will come down to who gets in front first. If the Shells can get in front first, they can sit back in, and then it will force Castletown to come out to try and dispossess them, which will create pockets. But if Castletown can get ahead first, they'll sit in and try and hit the Shells on a counter attack. So I think the opening 10 minutes will play a massive part in how close this game could be. I think the Shells though have learnt from the last time they played in the group stage, where it was at 2 points, because against the Starlights, against the Ahns, they would have had numbers back, and they seem to be breaking it down much better than they did that day against Castletown. So I'd be saying the Shells to win, and I think with that sort of evolution of their game, they'd win by 6 or 7.
And Purt?
Yeah, it'll be a tough game, all right. But I think the Shells have a lot more of a scoring threat and a lot more players that will hurt you than Castletown. I think to be a lot of pressure on probably Robbie Brooks to perform there if Ben doesn't is not going to be there, So it depends on the way Castletown set up, I suppose, defensively. But at the end of the day, I suppose you have to score as well as defend. So, and it'll depend on how they work the Shelmaliers kickouts as well, But I'd say the Shells by 5 or 6 points as well. I'd nearly you'd have to go.
So you've heard the thoughts of the lads, and we hope you enjoyed the bit of a difference, I suppose, in going down through the teams. We hope you won't get onto them too strong about not lads that aren't being picked or anything. It's just, I suppose, for a bit of fun and to draw a bit of attention to the finals that are taking place at the weekend. One other thing I'd like to mention, I think there's 2 players in particular that come to mind in terms of longevity. I read in the paper today, James Holmes played in the 1999 final, and he's likely to be featuring at the weekend for Castletown. And also my own club, Mernagh Boulevard, we're taking on Billy Stubb, the Sarsfields, and I'd like to give a good mention to Chris Daly, who was on the winning Mernagh team of 1998, and he's going to line out at full back most likely at the weekend. So I'd like to wish the best of luck to those players, but to all of the players who are taking part in all 5 finals over the course of the weekend. We hope that they're all very good games. We hope you get out to watch them. We hope you enjoyed the coverage on Wexford GAA TV throughout the football championship, and I'd like to just thank everyone that was part of being involved in it, those who gave up their time tonight and other nights to give us the benefit of their thoughts, and we wish you all the very best.